Alright, we're back and we're going to finish up our NCAA simulation here. And what we're going to do, let me just delete this here, is we're going to highlight this table. So starting right up here in K3, and what you can do is once you've highlighted some of that, you can do a shift end down. So you hold the shift key, push the end key, push the down key. And what you're going to do then is you're going to go to data here, and there's this what if analysis. We're going to click that and we're going to click data table, and then we're going to leave row input cell blank. In column input cell, we're just going to click a cell here like J1. Just has to be an empty cell, and we're going to click OK. And what that's going to do is it's going to put all these different teams in here. Now they all say Duke right now. Part of that is because I have my formulas turned so that it's automatic except for data tables. So it's not calculating the data table for me right now. And the reason I do that is because otherwise I could be doing all sorts of different stuff in Excel here, and it wants to update it every single time. If I push the delete button though, this will still update. This does not. If I want to update this data table, I have to click Calculate Sheet or Calculate Now. Okay. So I'll click Calculate Sheet, and you can see that it's thinking. It takes a little while, not too long, but now it pops up with all of these different champions in here. Okay. So now we've got a list of 1,000 champions here, but we don't want to just know the champion. We want to know how many times does the team win the first game, the second game, and so on. So what we're going to do is we're going to take all of these teams over here. So we're going to highlight all of these teams, and we're going to do a Control-C to copy them. We're going to come over here, and in cell P8, we're going to do a Paste Special, and we want to transpose them. Right now they're in a vertical column. We want to put them in a horizontal row. So we click Transpose and we click OK. And that's going to put them in this horizontal row. The next thing that we want to do is we're going to make this list of 1,000 again. So probably the easiest thing to do is just to come over here and click on this one, and again hold down the Shift key, push the end button and the down button, and that'll take you all the way down to 1,000. Then do a Control-C to copy. Come back up to the top, and here in cell O10, we can just do a Control-V to paste. And that will give us 1,000 there. Underneath each of the team names, what we're going to do is we're going to use this COUNTIF formula. So what this is going to do is it's going to count if, so count in this particular range, from C3 to H65. Notice that's at this range over here where all of our winners are highlighted, our winners for each game. So we want to make sure we choose that range. We're going to put $ in front of the C and the H because those are the columns. And when we copy this formula over, if we don't put $ in front there, it's also going to move the C to a D and the H to an I and keep moving it down until pretty soon we're not even looking at this same section anymore. Okay. So now we're counting from that section, and we want to count P8. We want to count if the name in this blue section equals Virginia. So what it's going to do, it's going to come over here and it's going to look and it's going to see Virginia 1, 2, 3, 4 times in this section. Okay. Now it's got a 3 there because now there's only 1, 2, 3 instances of Virginia over here. So it's counting up how many times it sees the team up above in this tournament. What we can do then is we can grab the bottom right corner, so left click and hold, and just drag that over to the end until we get to Iona here at the end. And let go, and it copies that formula all the way across. So now in this row that's highlighted, it's counting up how many times, basically how many games each team won in this instance of our simulation. Again, we want this to happen 1,000 times. So we're going to create another data table. So let me just clear this. And again, to create a data table, we're going to highlight, starting with this box here. So we want to click in 09. We want to highlight all the way to the end here, all the way to the end of Iona. And then if we just hold the Shift key down and we push end down, it only takes us down one row to get us to the first row. But then we can do end down again while we're holding Shift, and it'll take us all the way to the bottom. Okay, the other option is to hold down your left click button and highlight all of this all the way down to row 1009. So now we have this whole table highlighted here, and we want to create a data table for this as well. So what we're going to do is, again, we're going to go to Data, What If Analysis, Data Table. Again, we want column input cell, and we're just going to click on some empty cell over here and click OK. Now again, all of these Villanovas are the same, all of these numbers are the same over here. That's because I have my formulas set up so that it won't calculate unless I ask it to for the data tables. So if I click Calculate Sheet, it'll think for a little bit, and now it's again changed those team names. You can also see the numbers in here have changed as well. So now I've got 1,000 simulations of this tournament, and I've recorded how many times each team wins in each of those 1,000 simulations. So now I want to know, how many times does a team win its first game? How about its second game, its third game, and so on. So that's what we're going to do up here in these 6 rows. So what we want to do is we want to use that COUNTIF function again. So equals COUNTIF, and we want to count in this range from P10 all the way down to P1009. We're going to put $signs in front of the 10 and the 1009 because we're going to copy this formula down, and we don't want the 10 and the 1009 to change. Okay. We only want to count the cells, though, where Virginia won at least one game. So cells where it's greater than 0, where the number there is greater than 0. We have to put that in quotes, and then greater than 0, end quote. Close the parentheses. And since we ran 1,000 simulations, we'll divide by 1,000 to find the percentage of times, or proportion of times, that Virginia won at least one game. So we do that, and in this case, it's 99% of the time. Now we know that UMBC did beat Virginia. So this simulation did show that one time in 100, or 10 times in 1,000, UMBC ended up beating Virginia. So it's not completely unexpected that this would happen. Very highly unlikely. But it did happen 10 times out of 1,000 in this simulation. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to grab that bottom corner and we're going to copy that formula down. Okay? But now if you notice, they all changed to 0.99s. That's because when we copied it down, it copied the exact same formula all the way down. What we want, though, is this was greater than 0, so winning at least one game. For the next one down, we want them to win at least 2 games. So we want to change this greater than 0 to be greater than 1. And now we can see that 76% of the time, Virginia won at least 2 games. The next cell down, we want to change that so that it's greater than 2. So how many times do they win more than 2 games? 57.8. Next one down, greater than 3. Next one, greater than 4. And the last one, greater than 5. So greater than 5 would mean they've won 6 games. There are only 6 games needed to win the championship. And so for this, these 1,000 simulations, this is saying that Virginia won the championship 0.095 proportion of the time, so 9.5% of the time. Okay? They made it to the championship 21.9% of the time. They made it to the Final Four 38.8% of the time. They made it to the Elite Eight 57.8% of the time. So even though it was, according to our simulations, it was possible that UMBC would beat Virginia in the first round, we still have a 57.8% chance that they would win more than 2 games. Okay. What we do then is we highlight those 6 cells, and we can grab the bottom right corner here by left clicking and dragging all the way over to the end. And we can see then how likely it is that each team wins their first game, their first 2 games, their first 3 games, their first 4 games, their first 5 games, and the national championship. Okay. Now, this was using my ratings, and as you can see, we have Villanova right over here, and it gave Villanova a 19.6% chance to win the entire tournament. That was the highest out of all of these in my rankings. Duke was second, 16.6%. Okay. Virginia, only 9.5% chance, so maybe not as much as you would think for a number 1 seed. All right. One more thing before we end this here, and that has to deal with this standard deviation. Okay. What I'd like you to do, along with completing these simulations, is I'd also like you to change the standard deviation, lower it, raise it, see what happens. Okay. How do these probabilities shake out here when you lower that standard deviation to, say, 5? What happens when you raise that standard deviation to 15? Okay. And then you're going to be playing around with that standard deviation a little bit, and maybe with some of these team ratings. If you really thought one team, was good, increase their rating a little bit. Maybe you didn't like another team so much, you didn't think they was good, lower their team rating. Run your simulation again 1,000 times and see how the probabilities turn out. Okay? And that's going to be part of your discussion. Once the simulation is done, we'll talk more about the discussion, but you want to complete 1,000 simulations of this. If you were somebody who didn't have Microsoft Excel on your desktop and able to complete these data tables, I would urge you to borrow a friend's computer in order to take your Office Live sheet and actually calculate these data tables. You should be able to do everything else except for the data tables, though, prior to that. All right. Thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll be able to answer any questions when I come back.